very welcome to this promotion Q&A this evening, where you'll be able to get the benefit of my 30 years of experience. So sometimes I think, well, why should people actually listen to me if they've not met me before? Why should they actually take any notice of anything I've got to say? Yes, 30 years now worth of helping people to get promoted, succeed in specialist interviews and in promotion boards. So plenty of experience there for you to tap into. So the aim behind these Q&As is just to, check in with you. I love to check in with some members of the Blue Light Group, and also to see if I can answer any questions for you in respect of any promotion boards or any promotion board preparation that you're doing. So should we dive in? Does that sound good? Yeah. Awesome. Should we dive in then? So, Aid, what can I help you with? And then we'll go to Kim.
Evening, Brendan. We have spoken to before, because if you remember, I stumbled onto your recruitment one a few weeks ago.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Was it useful still?
It was, yeah, it was, and hopefully it was useful for the others that were on there to get my perspective on some things as well. So it was useful.
Good.
So I'm on the right one today.
Yes, you are. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, always nice. So I'm going for PC to Sergeant. West Mercia Police. The process has just been launched in the last week. So it's a 750-word write-up as to why I think I'm ready, and also my aims and objectives in terms of the priorities. What priorities would I have as a sergeant? And then, should I be successful for the paper sift, then it's on to a briefing exercise, which I think is quite common, well, certainly known in other forces now, which is a written exercise rather than a spoken delivered piece.
So not really a briefing exercise then.
No, so it's one where they give you a folder full of lots of different documents of things that have happened. It's a bit Osprey Part 2-esque. Yeah, a little bit. You've got what you want, kind of thing. If you say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. That will lead on to a maximum of, I think they said 40% of the overall pass mark from the whole process. So that's a pass fail on that briefing exercise. And then if successful in that, you're on to the board itself, which will be 5 questions, a mixture of well, I've heard it from 2 different sources. So I had a group meeting today, which sort of launched the process to respective candidates, where they said it would be a mixture of forward and rear facing. But I've also heard it from the superintendent who wrote the boards that they would all be forward facing. So I kind of have to prepare for both. So 5 questions, forward and rear facing, and I've kind of got an idea roughly of what some of them are going to be. The force issues, as you've said in many of your videos, where's the pain? Well, my force is, quite clear where some of the pain is. So my head's a swim at the moment. It's all over the place in terms of what I need to be looking at, what I need to read. I have spoken to you before. If you remember, I'm not operational. I'm in the training world. So playing a little bit of catch up in terms of operational police officers, and for example, that briefing exercise. I could probably do it, but it's causing me some concern because it's not my day-to-day world.
All right. So what's the actual thing then that you're looking for? What's the one specific thing that you'd need some support with?
What's your experience on briefing exercise? Because we're given an hour, all this information, and we need to list our priorities, actions, create a document which is then going to go on to be assessed.
Okay, cool. Can look at that. I'd suggest, though, we'll come to it in a moment. I'd suggest the first thing you've got to do, though, is get through the paper sift.
True. I'm less concerned about the paper sift. That's not pinging on my radar as such.
Right. I'll come to that in a moment. All right. Aid,
Possible overconfidence.
I think it should. I think it should be on your radar.
Hmm.
All right. I'll come back to that in a moment. All right. So we've got that. Then there's a load of stuff going on there. So
Yeah.
over to Kim. What is a because for Aid it's like yeah, everything, please.
Yeah, just do that for me.
Yeah, just wave that magic wand for me. Kim, for yourself, anything specific that you're struggling with?
Yeah, so I took I'm in Kent.
Yeah.
I took the board in I think February now. And unfortunately I didn't pass. Otherwise I don't think I'd be here now. So it's obviously DC to Sergeant. So I've been acting now for it would just be a year in child protection. And the feedback that I got was I can do the job standing on my head. No doubt I can do the job. But where I missed off was the why I do the job and the sort of how it benefits the force. So I can do the job, but how I contribute that wider contribution and the why I do the job is where I dropped. And I narrowly missed it as well by like, I think 1-2 points off.
Oh, wow. It's just like painful that when that happens, isn't it?
It's painful, especially that you're still acting and you're still doing the job and you've still got the support from all your SLT team and they're all fucking gutted. Oh, sorry, that you didn't.
It's all right.
That, they're all like, what went on? Like, basically, what happened? Did you get in there and just be a massive idiot? Turns out, yeah, I did.
Well, no, it's not that. So, look, right, I'll come to that in a moment as well, because it feels like in your force, they want to know a little bit about what's motivating you to be a sergeant and how do you feel you can help us deliver on our priorities. Yeah. Whereas you go down the road to another force and they don't give a shit. Quite frankly, they don't care about your motivation for being a sergeant, and they just want you to answer, like Aid was saying, I've just got to answer 5 questions that are forward-facing questions. That other forces will not ask you one question about your motivation, whereas others will start off with, well, why you and why now? Yeah,
and
what? Yeah, go on.
And this is where the SLT found this frustrated, and their feedback to me is that we've got people that can say, yeah, I do it for this, and this is what I want to be, and this is what I do, but they're shit at the job. And then people that I didn't go down that road, but I can do the job. And that's where they find sort of that board process, especially for Kent, I don't know about other forces, quite frustrating.
All right. Okay. Here's the thing. So I'll start with yourself, Kim. So you are clearly promotion ready, but you're just not board ready.
Yeah. Do you know what?
We don't want to be just passing it by 1 or 2 marks. We want to be nailing it, completely nailing it.
Yeah.
Go on. Do I know what? Go on. Tell me what I don't know.
Do you know what? I joined the job at 38, and me joining late in life has been worked in my favour. This board malarkey is the first time it has not. It has stopped me in my tracks, because I think, being that age, I've sat so many interviews. I went to the board and I treated it like an interview. It's not an interview, it's a board. And that's where I'm struggling to make that connection. And I think it's just being done, sitting so many interviews at my age, you just get to that point, and it's just getting that different mindset and that new approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're speaking the truth there. That whether we like it or not, boards are here to stay. Even with the new SIP process, the new promotion process that the College of Policing is dreaming up, that's going to involve huge amounts of paperwork. If I was there, I'd be looking at portfolios, probably saying things like, "I want to read it, not weigh it." But even within that, and all the hoops that you'll have to jump through, guess what? There's still a board. No matter it just doesn't really matter what happens. In my lifetime, boards aren't going to go away. Boards were there in 1985 when I joined. I succeeded in getting a really high mark in my sergeant's exam, so I had to go for a compulsory fast track HPDS, high potential development scheme. I had to do a compulsory fast track PC to sergeant interview board, and it was exactly the same as it is today. No different. It was just like 2 or 3 senior officers. It was 3 for me. 3 senior officers sat behind a big table, me plonked in a chair in front of them, and that was 1987. And we're now in 2024. And Kim, what you went through was the same thing. And they wanted to know this, they wanted to know for me, what's my motivation for wanting to be a sergeant? They wanted to know exactly the same sort of things. How is you being a sergeant going to help impact on what we do and what we're trying to achieve as a force? I got the same sort of questions, and questions like tell me about a time when, and questions which were, how will you deal with?
Yeah.
I did terribly, and I got told off a lot when I came back because I'd already told the superintendent I just was completely not interested. I don't want to go. And he said, you've got to go. And I said, I don't want to. I'm not interested. I got my sergeant's exam. Great. I almost wish I didn't come in the top 200. I just want to go out, lock up bad guys. And quite frankly, in my spare time, I just want to chase girls and have fun. I don't want to get promoted. I'm not interested. And so my board was a complete and utter train wreck. And I got a really good ticking off after, because when he said, why do you want to be a sergeant? I was like, I don't. I just spoke the truth. I wasn't sergeant ready, though. I remember saying, I don't want to be a sergeant. One day I do, but at the moment I'm completely not interested. And I don't want this fast track thing. I'm not interested. I'm here because I've been told to be here. And it just looked at me like, how dare you? It's
Don't waste our
1987.
time.
But the point being, Kim, is that it's not changed. And whether we like it or not, doesn't matter. The golden rule kicks in. Those who hold the gold make the rules. And those in command make the rules. I went through it, so they can go through it, and it just perpetuates.
Absolutely.
So,
I've just got to
Kim,
get my old head around it.
Yeah, you just got to get promotion board ready, which means it doesn't mean lying your ass off or anything like that. It means being authentic, but in a very look, 5 things they're looking for: good structure, good level of detail, some authenticity, as in, look, I'm not perfect. You're not the perfect sergeant at the moment. It's going to take several years for people to go, yep, she's perfect, and even then you won't be. So things go wrong. So they're expecting some authenticity from you. They're expecting some kind of emotional connect, and they're expecting you to answer the questions. So if they ask you questions like, why do you want to be a sergeant? It's not about chucking out a load of, I just want to help the force be the best it can be. I really enjoy working with people. I found I've got a knack for supervising. They don't want to know all of that BS. They want to know your individual story, which is authentic, that started off with a point there where you were like, yeah, sergeant, and then ends with, and I'm here sat in front of you today, and listing all the chapters in the space of about 4 minutes that led you to be where you are today. So it needs to be an answer that's very authentically yours, but at the same time, there is a little bit of box ticking going on there. But, in the rank of sergeant, you should be ticking those boxes anyway. So, because, in terms of, what drives you to be a sergeant, you want your team to be the best it can be. You want to enable it to be the best it can be so that you can actually contribute to what the force is trying to achieve on behalf of the communities that it's a part of. So it's articulating that as well, in terms of the impact that you're going to make, because, dress it up however you want. As a sergeant, you're the most important rank in the force as far as I'm concerned, because it doesn't matter what the chief constable wants to achieve. You're the linchpin. You're the one that can screw it up or make it happen. Doesn't matter what your inspector wants. If you don't want that thing to happen, you'll find a way of making sure that thing, whatever it is, doesn't happen. If you want something to happen, you will make it happen. Doesn't matter what the inspector says. Matters not one jot. You're the one. I remember a chief inspector of mine, when I wanted to go for the rank of inspector, just said, look, when you get the pips on your shoulder, Brendan, just don't forget it's a sergeant's war out there. And what he meant was, without your sergeants on board, you will achieve nothing and your life would be very difficult. So, you know, as a sergeant, and I think from the sounds of it, they want to hear about how you're going to make them believe that you are going to be the one that holds it together at 4 a.m. and the one that will move the force closer to what it wants to achieve. And they've got to believe in you as well. They've got to believe in you. So I think one of the magic questions that they're asking themselves, it doesn't matter what the marking guide is in front of them, because my guess is you had like a superintendent, chief superintendent, officers of that sort of rank.
Yeah, chief super, and inspector and HR.
Yeah. So, you know, they're sat there thinking, the chief super and the inspector, they're sat there thinking, I've got the marking guide in front of me, but ultimately I'm also thinking, can I see Kim on my team at 4 a.m. when there's no one else around, when the inspector is tied up doing something 20 miles away, and the on-call silver, the on-call superintendent isn't available because they're dealing with a complete and utter shitstorm in custody somewhere, and you're it. You know, are you the sort of person that can have confidence in, that's going to hold it together so that the wheel will wobble, but it's not going to come off, so that when the cavalry arrives at 7 o'clock, they'll be like, oh God, Kim was on last night. Good. Doesn't matter what we come into, we know the wheel will still be on. It won't have wobbled off. It might be a bit loose, might be a bit wobbly, but we can help put it back on again. But it's not falling off. And that's the other thing I think they're looking for as well, that sort of confidence. So that sort of confidence comes from being promotion ready. The other part of it, making sure that you've got a good, structured, detailed, authentic, emotionally connected answer to the question they're asking about your why and your impact, the impact you're going to make. That needs work. You know, that needs
the last
work.
bit you touched on, I think the sort of like the sort of the personal side, the emotional, the me side, not just kind of what they want to hear, but more from me. What am I about? That is definitely a big part that was missing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we look at a lot in our academy program, that's where we work with people very closely on a one-to-one and small group webinars. One of the things we look at a lot is, so what type of leader are you? You know, that's what they want to know. They want to know, what type of leader are you? You know, and not the BS from that you can Google, you know, Google 7 different types of leadership or 5 different types of leadership. What sort of leader are you? I mean, I know if I was summing up the sort of leader I was very disorganized. So I needed people around me who were organized. So as an inspector, I was very disorganized. So I needed a very organized sergeant. I was very impulsive and would make decisions very quickly. They were often the right decisions, but sometimes they were wrong because I was a bit too hasty. But we still achieved something. I was very much that kind of leader that didn't like to get bogged down in analytics because it just wasn't my thing. I just wanted to see the job done, and sometimes I got very frustrated because it wasn't getting done as fast as I'd like it to get done. So, and I deeply cared about my team. I deeply cared about them and could demonstrate that as well. I loved them. You know, I did. I loved them. You know, I loved my team and would do anything for them. And some would say a bit laissez-faire, but I would say, well, actually, do you know, I wasn't fretting about the small stuff. So there you go. There's me describing myself as a leader. I'm not bad as a leader. There's some faults there. There's some fault lines, but also there's some incredible positives. I've just got to work out, what type of leader am I? I mean, I could go on more, but I'm not going to. But what type of leader am I? How do I mitigate for the things that I'm not good at? And how do I make sure that, you know, my strengths play to what the force is trying to achieve? So as a neighbourhood inspector, I was like as happy as a pig in shit. I really was, because I was in a highly complex, chaotic world that required a lot of collaborative working. So I was great at building up relationships with partner agencies and with community members. And I was great at getting people on board. And I was great at getting people to see a vision, a vision of what could be. And I was great at having them on board with me, on board the ship that's steaming towards that vision. But the other thing that I was acutely aware of is that sometimes people would go man overboard because they couldn't quite keep up with me, and I wouldn't notice. So again, I'm going back into the sort of leader I am, or I was, because I'm not in the police anymore. But so Kim, could you articulate that? Could you articulate? Don't do it now, but could you articulate the type of leader you are, what you stand for, what they're going to get in a way that's structured? I mean, what I just did then wasn't very structured because I wasn't really getting myself ready for it. I practice that answer, and I practice it, and I practice it, and I practice it. So when I can deliver it, it's like it's like my pitch.
Yeah.
It's like my pledge. So it's not just an interview answer. This is my pledge to you as a force, to you as senior officers, that when you promote me, this is what you're going to get. And it's exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, I've had to do a lot of sort of soul searching, really. What I've been doing since then is keeping like a daily journal to sort of the things that I've done or haven't done that day, and the sort of put like positive and sort of negative about that day to sort of help me think about, because I think the days churn by so quickly. Being in CP, we deal with some horrific stuff, and there's been so much as well the last 6 months. It's been really good to keep this journal where I just have it next to me. I can just whack a few things down, sort of how am I feeling, how am I handling things? Do you know what I mean? How am I coping with things? To understand sort of more, because I'm definitely one of those people that would just like, I've always have been head down, just get on with it. I don't look up, I don't think about really like take any reflection as how was my day, how I'm feeling, what was good, what was bad. Just not that sort of person. And that's been really difficult to be that sort of person, to think about, me, who am I just literally just get on with it. And that's been my failing with that board, is I have to just stop and be more like, and just reflect a bit more. So I've been doing that.
So so journaling is a really good thing. I recommend it highly when you're preparing for a board, because, or even before you're preparing for a board, as soon as you decide I'm going to go for the next rank, start journaling. Because one of the things that happens is you get to your board and you think, oh God, a time when I've collaborated with others in order to overcome an obstacle or a problem. God, I can't remember. And you will have done it. You'll have done something that's awesome, but it's just gone. It's gone from your memory bank because you're dealing with so much stuff every day. Your mind can't take in that much. But if you journal it, it's there. And you want to be writing about not just what happened, but how you dealt with things, why you made those choices, what the repercussions were, what the impact was, how you felt, how you managed those feelings, how other people manage those, how you helped other people manage those feelings, and how you actually managed to achieve the thing, and importantly, what you'd do differently next time.
Yeah, and also sort of, when I've got time and going through and going on and looking at the sort of Kent missions and priorities, and just sort of like reading through that journal and sort of highlighting where that could apply to those, priorities and values, to sort of try and tie those in, just to get my head in that space, not necessarily looking so at the situation as in, what I did and stuff like that, because that is really, really easy for me. And that was not a problem for them, that like what I do with the job, how I dealt with it, that wasn't the problem. It's more the other bits. So I'm not focusing so much on the detail of the job, because I can recall that. No problem.
So it sounds like you couldn't get over the table how you actually fitted into the organization.
And
that's so important.
I didn't know either, because since doing all this, and it just really is highlighted that actually, did I really know? I was ready for the ball, but I can kind of see their point.
Well, perhaps if we're honest, Kim, you may not have been ready for promotion back then, because you could do the job, but if you can't see how you fit into everything that's going on, then you're a jigsaw, you're a piece of the jigsaw puzzle that may not have the edges that they need.
Well, the thing is,
So
I think I did, but because I've just never had to think in that way or be
yeah,
mindful of that. I think the way I'm doing it is no different, but I think the way I approach it and think about it is different because I've had to because of the board, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
So there may be some truth in what they're saying. Might be a hard thing to swallow, but there may be some truth in that. That yeah, we want to.
Mm,
We like that. We like the cut of your jib. We like your style as a sergeant, but you just don't see where you fit in. And until that
mm,
point, we're not prepared to nail down those stripes. We're going to keep them
mm,
on Velcro, but you just pass. You failed by a couple of marks. Look, ultimately, there's another thing, with the boards as well is bias. There's a look at a draw in many ways because your assessors have had just as much training to be an interviewer as you might have. They'll
mm,
have had, if anything, like a 2-hour input, and they've all got their own biases. They've all got their things that they're looking for. They've all got their little favorite things that crop up on a board. They've all got their things that they'll tune into. And very few forces have the sort of moderation that's needed to ensure that all the assessors are assessing at the same sort of level. That's why
mm.
HR are there. But look, I've been on interview panels before where I've just thought, do you know, we there's an element of roll the dice here. Depends who I'm going to be on a panel with, and depending on the person who's chairing it will depend on whether the person gets through or not. So there's an element of that going on as well. And whether we like it or not, that's just the way it is. Because why? Because it's the police and they still love boards. And even with the new College of Policing fancy schmancy SIP process, I think it's called SIP, SIPP. Anyway,
Mm.
even with that, there's still a board. They just can't let go of them. Whereas in the private
Definitely.
sector, you'd be promoted. You would have been promoted yesterday,
Oh, I worked
easily.
in the private sector for 25 years before joining the police, so
Yeah,
I've seen both sides of it. This promotion process, I think, is absolutely nuts. It's
yeah.
just,
It,
yeah, you
it's
can't.
it's it's out of the dark ages. We'll cut that bit out. Your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not go down that road. But I think, but
No.
that's what I mean. The only thing I could, the only thing I could do, the only thing I have done is just listen to the feedback, just take it on board, act in it positively. Don't get all bitter and throw your toys out the pram with it. Listen, get on board with it, deal with it, pass it, move
Yeah.
on.
If you throw your toys out the pram, I mean, if you did that, and as your inspector, I'd be like, she's not ready yet. She's
Exactly.
not ready. You've got to go through the school of hard knocks as a sergeant and as an inspector. And if you
Hmm.
can't take a setback like that, then are you ready?
What's the
Probably
point?
not. Yeah.
Nah,
So
nah.
Kim, it sounds like you just need to. It sounds like what you're doing is that you're on the right track. The other thing is making sure that you don't just, because of the bias that's in the process, you want to be making sure that your answers next time are such that you're just knocking it out of the park. And that comes from a lot of planning, a lot of preparation, a lot of practice, and then practice, and then more practice, and then more practice. I mean, how many times? When's your next board going to be? Do you think?
So no, we've got an inspectors ball coming up in end of November, early December. So obviously after that, once they've posted everyone from that, so there's no date yet.
Yeah.
So I imagine probably same time next year. So I think we're sort of like, I would say about 6 months away.
All
So
right.
it's a little while away, but there's plenty of time to be. That's what you say, like just getting this together, sort of thinking about it, and going through this journal, actually thinking about, right, how does this start putting this all together as well, and
Yeah.
still
So
keeping a journal. So
let me ask you this question: how many times a week are you actually practicing answering interview questions, the sort of questions that you've got at your board?
none.
Right. Get a grip of that, because it needs to be at least 10. Even though
Wow.
you're thinking, oh, it's 6 months away, there is there is seriously no replacement out there. There's nothing that can beat actually just practicing.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
there's three keys to success in anything in life, right? Three things that are key to succeeding at anything in life, and I've followed this recipe for years, and it's always delivered for me. The first one is you've just got to do the reps. So you've got to do the reps. It's like going to the gym. You will not be able to bulk out or achieve whatever you want at the gym just by going there and doing 5 minutes worth of whatever the exercise is. You've got to do the reps. So you've got to practice these interview questions that you've had. You've got to get comfortable sitting in front of someone, sit in front of two people, bribe them with wine and chocolate, whatever. And just get them to fire the questions at you, and you've just got to answer them, record yourself, and then go over it. And don't just get them to ask the questions that are the easy ones. Ask them to ask the questions that you really struggled with. So questions like, so I'd be drilling this now, if I was you, Kim. I'd be drilling, why do you want to be a sergeant? Why you, why now? And the other one I'd be drilling is, if we promote you to sergeant, how are you going to actually impact on what we're trying to achieve as a force? And I'd just be doing that like 5 times a week for each one of them. And that's not a lot. You know, that's not much in the way of reps. It's only because you said you got 6 months to go. So the first thing is do the reps. The second thing is do the uncomfortable stuff. Record yourself and then go back over it and go, what was better than last time? And what was still a dog's dinner? Right. How do I stop it being a dog's dinner? Right. I need to work on that and come up with something better. And then I'm going to do, at the next time I do the reps, I'm going to do more and I'm going to do better. Right? More, better. It's just like nothing new. I'm just going to do more of what worked. I'm going to do better than I did yesterday for the thing that didn't work. Right? So that's 2 things. Do the reps, do the uncomfortable stuff. And here's the bit that you might not like, which I think you actually are doing part of it because you're journaling, but do something every day that takes you close to your goal. Right? Do something every day that takes you closer to your goal. If you did those things, Kim, so if you did the reps, if you did the uncomfortable stuff, and you did one thing, specific thing, every day that occupied half an hour of your time, how good do you think you'd be at the next board?
Oh, I'm not failing next one. That's for sure.
You'd nail it, wouldn't you? You'd nail it in anything in life. If you think about it, if you do the reps, you do the uncomfortable stuff, and you do it every day, in anything in life, you will succeed.
Yeah. I'm not failing again. That's just not an option. It's just not. No
well,
way.
You've got to take action, and you've got to take uncomfortable action. Do the uncomfortable stuff and start doing it now, because 6 months will fly by, and before you know it, you're like 2 weeks before thinking, holy moly, I've not done any practice.
Well, joining the Zoom call, there you go. That's one for today.
What's that?
Joining this Zoom call.
Yeah, there's one piece of action. There's one action that you've taken. Just take action every day. And for me, action isn't like writing. The journaling is helpful, but translating it into an answer. So get partner, friend, whoever, just to sit in front of you and just go, right, Kim, so tell me, what did you learn from today that's going to help impact on what the force is trying to achieve? And what did you learn today about why you want to be a sergeant? And just drill it, do the reps. And seriously, you will achieve anything in life if you just do those 3 things. If you can think of anything else, do let me know. But that for me is just a basic recipe for success. Anyway, Kim, hopefully helpful. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, listen, hope you hang around, because otherwise it'd be just, Aid and myself. But
I might turn my camera off, and I might have to do some work.
That's all right. Well, you're doing work now. Oh, here's another thing as well. Here's another thing. Sometimes people think, oh, this isn't work. This is work. You're doing it for yourself, and you're doing it so you can be an awesome sergeant in your force. So look, sometimes we get into really busy mode. Sometimes you just got to be a little bit selfish and think, no, this is for me, and it's for the force. Because if I'm an awesome sergeant, then I am going to help the force become a better place. But you've got to be a little bit selfish sometimes and just think, right, I need to take time out to do this. Because otherwise you'll never get done, and you'll be 2 weeks before you're bored and panicking, thinking, I can't fail this again. Anyway, Kim, if you turn your camera off, that's fine. I've got you.
Well, you know what? I'll sit and work.
All right, cool. No problem. Aid, for yourself. So you listed off before this, the big process that you've got the 750-word write-up, aims and objectives, a briefing exercise, which sounds more like a paper sort of written exercise, actually, because there's no briefing involved. Then you've got your board. Look, 750 word write-up. If you don't get that right, you don't go forward to the next stage.
Yeah.
So I know you're saying, well, I need some information for the briefing, and how would you approach that, and how would you approach the forward-facing questions and all the rest of it. Yeah, I'd suggest you're focusing on the wrong thing. The thing to focus on now is absolutely nailing that 750 word write-up, because if the promotion process is oversubscribed in your force, that's the thing that will weed people out.
Mm.
And if it's just full of, I've seen lots of these, people have submitted to us, people who are in our academy, we help them from the point where they've got their exam pass to, getting the stripes or the pips or whatever. And we help them a lot with these application forms that you have to do. And I've got to be honest, most of them, when they're submitted to us, and they're the best versions of what someone's been able to put together, and it's taken them hours and days and a long time to put it all together, and they're just terrible.
Mm.
They're terrible because they're really waffly. There's no structure, full of lots of what, but not enough how and why, and not linking it into the what the force is trying to achieve. Yeah, that's the thing I'd focus on, Aid.
Okay.
Seriously, because if you don't get through that, then it doesn't really matter if it doesn't really matter if you're really good at forward-facing questions or ace at delivering the written exercise, the briefing thing. If you don't get through that first bit, it's all immaterial.
Yeah, because one of the interesting things from today was 750 words. So it was in two parts, which it's one part, but two questions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why do you think you're ready to be a sergeant?
Yeah.
And what would your focus on priorities be? And so the takeaway from today was at least 500 words needs to be on why you think you're ready to be a sergeant.
Yeah.
So that's where,
that's tough. So let me ask you, why do you think you're ready to be a sergeant then, Aid? Why you? Why now?
Because, well, interestingly, I passed my Osprey Part 2 back in 2011. I dug my certificate out today. I was surprised it was so long ago. And I remember doing a period of acting after passing that, all cock of the walk and thinking, yeah, I've got this. I'm feeling utterly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I did not like that role at all. A little bit like yourself. The reason I went through Part 1, Part 2 was a competition with a colleague of mine, and then come out the other end and I passed it. And there's the expectation, the advancement, etc. Wasn't ready for it, so shied away from it. Turned down any further acting. Didn't go for any boards, and I've sat on it for this period of time. And my career path now has taken me through several different interesting roles. Where I am now, it's widened my horizons in terms of tactical and strategic thinking, understanding the force priorities, etc. But along that way, I've had good and bad sergeants, and I've learned a lot from good sergeants. I've learned even more from bad sergeants. And the department I'm working for at the moment, with its spotty supervision, and this is where I don't want to obviously be slagging off other sergeants and whatnot, is where I'm starting to think, hang on, I think I can do this better. In fact, I know I can do this better, and I understand why this sergeant isn't hitting the mark, because I think I've got a bit of a clear idea of what the force expects, what their vision and values are, what where the pain is, where the force has come under scrutiny and not been seen to achieve what it needs to achieve. And I've been helping my colleagues along that journey, for want of a better term, for free. I've been doing it to a degree within my current role. I'm thinking, okay, now that insecurity, that unsureness that I had previously, that's gone. So
Right.
I feel ready for it now.
Okay, so that needs. I'm going to be brutally honest with you here. I think myself that would need articulating a lot better.
Yeah.
All right. I would lose all the stuff about insecurities and not being ready before. I'd completely lose it all, and I'd lose anything to do with other sergeants, other team members, you know, not hitting the mark. I would absolutely, you know, I'd focus on your journey, but from the point where you were inspired to be a sergeant to what you've done to develop yourself to where you are now, that you're ready for the stripes, and all of it should be about, you know, positive nudges forwards. You know, just lose anything to do with you know, you can't be inspired by someone who's not very good at doing the job. That's not being inspired. You're being inspired by people who are awesome. My inspiration to be a sergeant, if I go back in time and think, what was my inspiration to be a sergeant? You know, like I said, I went to that board and I was just not ready at all. It was 2 police forces later before I actually got promoted to sergeant. That was in Cheshire. I really did not want to be in, you know, at that point I'd already worked out I want to go and work abroad, and I did. I ended up spending 3 years in the Bermuda police, which was awesome. And then I came from there to GMP, and the time was right. And I remember thinking, why is the time right now? And I just thought it's because I've got the confidence to be able to do the job as a PC. Right, that was really important to me. This is just what's important to me. But also, I could articulate exactly who had inspired me and how and why in terms of sergeants I'd had. And so I could articulate really clearly about which sergeants: Don Blackhurst, Dave Bergham, John Capstick, Dave O'Meara, you know, Paul Singh. You know, the latter two, the first 3 were from Cheshire. Penny Anchors from Cheshire as well. So four awesome sergeants from Cheshire, and 2 really awesome sergeants from Bermuda. And I started becoming like a blend of all of the best that they were. And but I could articulate it, but it was a you know, it wasn't. Along the way, I'd come across some really dreadful sergeants. You know, one of them I thought just needed arresting for corruption. It was that bad, you know. And we tried to bring that case against him, and it just didn't work out. It was. I'm not even going to go into that bit of history, but he just needed arresting and putting in prison for corruption. And he was so wily, he just slipped away from it. There's no point in talking about. Yeah, I'm talking about, that's the worst one I've ever come across, by the way. But there's no point in talking about, you know, you can't be, the point being, you can't be inspired by someone who's not cutting it for you. So I'd focus very much on your journey from where you felt as though, yeah, sergeant is for me, to the point where, you know, that development journey that you've been on. And that's how I'd articulate it. And that's the sort of thing that works. Your 750 words is not much.
No.
You know, that's just, you know, one side of A4.
Yeah.
That's it. So, yeah, I'd focus on that, Aid. You know, that's the thing I'd focus on at the moment, because if you don't get that right, everything else is immaterial.
Because reading between the lines as to the direction the force is taking, we're massively undersubscribed for sergeants. So I think the people I've spoken to, there's an anticipation there's going to be a large number of applicants, and they're going to want to select those who are truly ready for the role, not you know, as we've seen in my force and other forces, 2 years in, and they're starting that process. That's you know, back in your day and back in certainly earlier in my career, you weren't thinking of sergeanting until you were at least 5 years in.
Well, it was, you know, I was interviewed. my sergeant's interview was with 2.5 years service. I did my sergeant's exam with 2 years and 1 month service.
Oh, right.
And I came
would have been supported for that.
Yeah, I came 48th in the country and top of my force by a long way. And if you're back then, if you're in something called the top 200, you had to go. It wasn't you had no choice. You had to go for the high potential development scheme. You got an automatic interview, and it was compulsory. So that's why I had such a terrible attitude towards it, because I was like, this is stupid. This is messed up. I'm 23 years old. I'm not ready to be a sergeant. I'm not fast track material. I just studied my arse off to pass the exam, and I did it very well. And I just want to chase girls and lock up bad guys. That was it. So, you know, the process you're going through though is voluntary. The process I went through was compulsory, and I was always a bit. You know, the other, you know, side about me that, you know, if I'm honest with myself, is I was a bit belligerent at times. And if I could go back and speak to my younger self and give myself some brutally honest advice, it would be like, the advice would be like, sometimes, Brendan, you just need to shut the fuck up and
Yeah.
and bite
But
your
it's
lip.
just quite interesting because one of the things they talked about today is that they want to see the authentic you in the interview. And I was
yeah,
thinking,
oh yeah,
yeah,
they can,
how
well,
authentic do you want it?
they want authenticity in your 750 words though, because
Yeah.
it's competitive. And that's why I'm saying, Aid, focus on that. And the reason being is because if it is oversubscribed and it's going to be really competitive, they have not got the resources to be interviewing like 50 people, 50 potential sergeants. They will have a number, and it'll be probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess 20, or, you know, if they've got like 10 vacancies, they'll want to put 20 people through the process. Or if they've got 20 vacancies, they'll put 40 people through the process. If there's 80 applying and they're only going to put 40 through the process for 20 places, then they're going to be brutal with those application forms. So if you don't get that right, then you're going to be waiting another year or whatever before you get another opportunity. So you just got to so get that right. And yeah, that's it. That's my advice. And when it does get to the interview, you know, I talked about, you know, 5 things that are needed: good structure, good level of detail. So not just telling them what you did, but tell them how you did and why you did it. Authenticity, so important. I don't always get things right. This is where I messed up. And I messed up because, and this is what I'm going to do differently next time to make sure I don't mess up with that thing. That's proper learning at the end of your interview, end of your answer. An emotional awareness, so that you're like cognizant of your own feelings, because if you're talking about something that was difficult and challenging, then that would have come with a package of feelings as well. And your team would have felt certain ways. And so how did you help manage your team? And then the last thing is just make sure you answer the bloody question, because the amount of times that people go around the houses and they just don't answer the question. When we do one-to-ones, when we do our one-to-ones, when we do our small group webinars, seriously, honestly, the amount of times that people will answer a question, I think that answer sounds really awesome, but I have no idea what it's the answer to. And it's certainly not the answer to the question I asked. So, you know, that's really important as well. So those 5 things, but the authenticity, that's got to come out in the application form as well. Because if you just try and write down a load of CVF BS, they're not going to pass you. They're not going to take you through to the next stage, because they'll just read it and think, this is just such a load of bullshit. And
they made it clear today that the CVF, our force will class that as a guideline at best. They don't want CVF recited back to them.
No, I mean, no one does, because I mean, it's a useful and interesting document. I particularly like some of the changes in it as well, like the change around the value of. Actually, here's a test for you, Aid. What are the 3 new values in the CVF?
Oh, you've got. I remember courage.
Yeah.
This is where I get them confused with the code of ethics, or the ethical principles. So you've got public service and respect and empathy.
Nice one. Good, you've got it right. So what I would do is I'd get a good flavour for what those values and what the competencies actually mean. You know, what do they really mean? So when I read the behaviours around the new value of courage, what it tells me is the police service has taken a few knocks over the past few years.
Yeah.
And the knocks it's had is because, quite frankly, police officers haven't stepped up to the mark, and they've not challenged inappropriate behaviour. They've not challenged discrimination. They've allowed a police officer on their team to have the nickname the rapist, you know, the murderer of Sarah Everard, bless her soul. And no one did anything about it. And, you know, Carrick from the Met, his nickname was, what was it, Dave the Bastard. And no one thought to question that or challenge it. So when I look at that value of courage, what it screams at me when I read the behaviours is, we now require you to, and actually the code of ethics requires you to do this anyway. It's the law of the land, but that seems to have I think people sometimes treat the code of ethics as a set of guidelines. It's not. It's the law of the land. It's a code of practice under an act of parliament, and it requires you. It doesn't request you or tell you it's a good idea, but it requires you to challenge inappropriate behaviour. It requires you to challenge misconduct. And I think that, if we I'm just sort of using courage as an example, by the way, but if we understand the essence of it, so the essence of it is now we've got to step up. We've all got to step up to make sure that the behaviour, which is microaggressions, misogynistic, subtly racist, excused as banter, can't you take a bit of banter? It's just a bit of banter. It's just dark humor, No, actually, it's not. So one, need to challenge it. Two, develop the skills to be able to challenge it, or confront it might be a better word than challenge it, because challenge sounds a bit fierce, but or just to discover more about what was going on, what led to that kind of behavior. So developing those difficult conversation skills, because that's mentioned in the value of courage as well. And then supporting other officers who do challenge behavior. So how do you go about supporting other officers who do that? So that I think is what the force is trying to bottle up. Do you understand the essence of that value? Do you understand the essence of each one of those values and those competencies? Because that's the behavior we want from you, but we don't want you to be able to recite all of the behaviors, because that's pointless. We need you to understand the essence of what it is, because that's why it's changed. The CVF has changed, and it's moved from integrity, which was more leaning towards being professional, to courage, and it's courage to do the right thing in difficult or challenging circumstances. So does that make sense, Aid? That sorry, I got my soapbox a little bit there, because I feel quite strongly about doing the right thing.
It's the same reason they changed the code of ethics.
Yeah.
In its simplest term, the question is, well, why did it change? Well, it obviously needed to change because of the knocks that you've mentioned, and it aligns with the CVF more, but they have the 9 policing principles, and now they've chopped them up into the 3 ethical principles, but they're all still there.
Yeah,
and it's put the, as you said, the essence to it, because the old policing principles, it was just, we are honest. Well, we're clearly not.
Yeah. Well, what does that mean? Yeah. Even case law struggled to define what honesty was. I seem to remember case law could tell us what being dishonest was, but not what honest was. So so it's capturing the essence of it. And here's a little fun fact for you. Fun fact, Aid and Kim. It's not the first time the police service has been legislated to ensure that police officers' behaviour is aligned to what the communities want. Fun fact for you. Did you know that in 2012, Code G of PACE was changed? And it made a requirement in the first paragraph of Code G that when you arrest someone for an offence or stop and search them, you must treat them in 4 distinct ways. Not that you should or you could, but you must. It's a requirement. Kim and Aid are both looking at me now as if to say, please don't ask me what those 4 things are. Or actually, one of you may be like, no, I know those 4 things. The 4 things are. Go on, the 4 things are. Or you might be thinking is it on the tip of your tongue?
Is it what they're under arrest for?
No. That's Code G. Yeah, that's a different part of Code G. Yeah, first paragraph of Code G. It was amended in 2012. This is an act of parliament that's like old. I know this because I was first PACE intake in the district training school. 1984, went live on the 1st of January 1986. I know this because I didn't get to work on the 1st of January because it was a public holiday, and I didn't get double bubble, not as a probationer. But 2nd of January, I was in, and PACE was live, and everyone thought I was the expert. No, 2012 was amended. It's just a fun fact. It was amended so that it said that when a person is arrested for an offence or when they're stop searched, or actually Code G was just talking about power of arrest, but the stop search applies. Someone must be treated with respect. They must be treated responsibly, treated fairly, and without unlawful discrimination. There you go. How about that? With respect, responsibly, fairly, without unlawful discrimination. So it's not the first time, is it, Aid, that they've tried to legislate for doing the right thing? Because,
Mm.
we talk about respect and empathy as a new value. Well, respect was legislated for in 2012.
Mm.
So it's legislation. It's like, no, it's not just a good idea. You must treat your prisoners with respect. So
Yeah.
it's not the first time they tried to legislate for behaviour. Anyway, just a bit of a just going off at a sidetrack there. I often do. That's another side of me that I'm fully aware of, is that I go off at tangents a lot. I just go off at tangents a lot. Anyway, Aid, getting back to the point, because let's bring me back off that tangent, because Aid and Kim are probably thinking, what the fuck is he talking about now? Where is he going with this? And why is he talking about Code G and blah 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 blah? Just a fun fact, that's all. I'm full of all sorts of ridiculous fun facts. Aid, focus on your 750 words. That's it, mate.
So
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And look, we we are here for you. This is not the academy. This is just a Q&A. Me
Yeah.
trying to be helpful and supportive. If you're thinking the academy is something that you might like, because this is where we work with you really intensely. I mean, seriously intensely. Small group webinars, one-to-ones. If you're selected for it, because it involves an hour-long phone call, Zoom call first, discovery call, just to see if you're a good fit and we're a good fit. But if we think you're a good fit and you think you're a good fit and we do it and you join our academy program, we actually guarantee the pass as well. We guarantee the pass. If you don't pass, we keep working with you to pass the next time. And if you don't pass the second time, we'll give you a full refund. So does that sound fair? I'm not saying you've got to join or anything, but just
No,
want to check in with you. Does that sound fair? Does that sound fair?
it does sound fair. Well, what is
Yeah.
the cost of it? Because I've heard you talk about it before, but I was never sure what the cost was.
It depends on your needs. So we
Yeah.
can't give people a blanket cost. And
That's
that's why
fair
we have that. That's why we have that call with people to work out, right, we think your needs are this in terms of the one-to-one support. So it's going to cost you X. It is a big investment, but we made that investment back, because
Mm.
if you fail and you screw it up a second time, then we've got to give you all your money back. And we do give a few refunds as well. We do give some refunds. Not often. It would be a terrible business model if we had to give lots of refunds.
Yeah.
But we do give a few out. But yeah, so if that's something that you feel as though might interest you, then drop us a line and we can
Yeah.
organise that.
No.
We can organise that. It's about 45 minutes to an hour. It's goes into a lot of depth about, right, what is it you're really struggling with? Because the one thing we don't do is we don't sell people the package just because they're breathing and they've got a pulse. Like Kim, it may be that if you went on that call, Kim, you might get Debbie or Matt, who do those calls, getting to the end of it and just going, do you know, Kim, I don't think you need us. It just sounds like you're doing exactly what you need to do and you're on the right tracks. So, rock on, just crack on. We'll always be that honest with people, because the last thing we want, I mean, I've been doing this now, Blue Light's now 14 years old. The last thing I want is someone putting something on Trustpilot to say, yeah, I joined the academy and it was great and everything, but I didn't really need it. The more I got into it, the more I worked out I didn't need it. We don't want that kind of reputation. So, but if it's something you feel as though, might work for you, then let's jump on that call and we can work out whether it is. And we'll be honest enough to give you the right guidance. Because like I said, the last thing we want is a reputation of, we just don't want that kind of reputation. And plus, we really enjoy working with people who, like I said to Kim before, that's the other thing we work out in that call, is whether we actually think you're or believe you're promotion ready. So if we don't think you're promotion ready, we'll give you that feedback as well. But if we feel as though you're promotion ready, but you're just not board ready, then that's when the academy kicks in, and it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's good. But anyway, drop us a line if you feel as though that might be something that would interest you. And that 750 word write up might be that might be our first step. That might be the first thing that we do, because if we don't get you through that bit, then the rest of it's just immaterial, isn't it? It's just immaterial. Yeah. Anyway, I've just had a message from my good wife, who is at the train station with my little boy doing some train spotting. It's normally me who's doing that, but I'm running this Q&A webinar for you tonight. So I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to have to go to the station and take over. It's probably the case that the train he's waiting for hasn't appeared yet, but it will appear. For those of you who follow my family exploits on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see that a lot of my life sometimes is about my little boy Alexander, who's awesome. He's a beautiful little boy, and he loves trains. So that means I love trains. So I think I might be station bound now. I might be getting the message to say, come to the station to take over. Yeah. Anyway, I get kind of interested in them. You see a really nice Class 37 steaming by. It's a thing of beauty. Anyway, Kim and Aid, lovely to meet you, and hopefully catch up with you soon on one of the next ones, maybe next Monday. All right.
Cheers, Brendan.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.